Hi, I'm Brooke Erdman, and I'm here today with Brad Kearns, and we're going to talk about his success with the meat-based diet. And it's really nice to meet you, Brad, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Brooke. I'm excited. This is so cool, and I'm happy to share my story. And it's just amazing what you guys are doing with your movement. So fun times.
Yeah, Meet RX is right on it, and we're really interested in how you got interested in meat-based diet.
Oh, mercy. I've been in the ancestral health scene for a long time, hardcore, full speed, working with Mark Sisson, the prominent leader in the space. And we've been writing books together since back in 2008. The first one was The Primal Blueprint, which launched the Primal Blueprint brand lifestyle movement and was one of the catalysts for the explosive growth of the primal paleo diet and lifestyle. In 2017, we wrote a book called The Keto Reset Diet. It was one of the first major books released for the promotion of the ketogenic diet. Amazing that it's only a few years old, but that became a New York Times bestseller. And so, we're really on the forefront of this exploration of new dietary strategies that were counter to the disastrously flawed standard American grain-based high carbohydrate diet, of which I was a huge participant in when I was a professional triathlete. So I have a background as an athlete. I'm a lifelong athlete. I'm really excited to continue to pursue athletic goals and perform at the elite level, even at age 55. But back in my younger years, I was all in on this global triathlon circuit. At my very best, I was national champion and ranked #3 in the world. So I had this, heavy athletic background where I was really into fitness, healthy eating, trying to get the best out of my body, all those things. So that kind of led to a career in this world. I've been in the nutritional supplement business, coaching for a long time, and writing numerous books on all aspects of diet, health, exercise, peak performance. And boy, it's been really amazing to become acquainted only in recent times with this carnivore diet movement. And I feel like for me, it's been a challenge or an exercise in critical thinking, challenging my fixed beliefs, and maintaining an open mind. So a lot of us parade around priding ourselves on how we're open-minded and free-thinking and willing to listen to an alternative point of view. But the scientific research shows that, and Mark Manson talks about this in his best-selling books, that we like to think of ourselves as open-minded and willing to change our mind, but most likely we are so deep into our belief systems, all that we do for the rest of our life is pursue confirmation bias, pursue studies and stories and things that make us feel like we're right. And when I started to listen to Dr. Baker on the Joe Rogan podcast in 2017, there's a guy in Florida named Danny Vega, one of the great leaders in this overall health and fitness movement. And he was sitting down with me in earlier 2017, said, yeah, I'm doing this crazy cow diet where I'm just eating stuff that come from a cow. That's the rule. And guess what? My athletic performance is better. My body fat is down. He's already super ripped guy. He was down from 9 to 6% or whatever. And all my blood work is better. And I just kind of shrugged it off like, oh, okay, whatever, that's kind of crazy. And then went back along my merry way. And I was always, trying to have that wonderful, colorful plate of food and looking for all kinds of produce to cook up and stir fry. And I'd cook these big meals for my family. And of course, it was all about being as healthy as possible and as colorful and varied as possible. And then, stuff was really starting to get to me. I remember listening to Dr. Saladino in 2019. I think he was talking to Ben Greenfield, where they really went deep into the rationale behind perhaps avoiding these plant antigens for a test period to see, if you have that reactivity, which is so common. And I'm like, this really does make a lot of sense. I went back and replayed Sean's interview on Joe Rogan, where, you start to look for the nuances and get a further understanding when you listen to something twice. And I realized that I was compelled to try it. I mean, here I am, a health and fitness leader. I'm trying to spread the message. I'm writing books. I'm telling people what to eat. So, to be responsible and out of curiosity, I consider it a permanent transformation of my diet forevermore. And so instead of going and looking for produce in the name of eating healthy and being obligated to have that salad as a centerpiece of one's diet because it's the healthiest thing you can possibly imagine, those are the types of things I started to second guess, and then started, embracing the research that, look, if you look at a slice of liver, it is the most nutrient dense food on the planet. Maybe salmon eggs are up there, the seaweed and things that have these high ratings of the agents that blow away any blueberry or broccoli just from a quantitative point of view. And so if you start to accept that and you're going for the maximum nutrient density in your diet, the diet becomes more and more animal based. And I'm strongly in favor of, selectivity. And I appreciate and love the people that have that passion for, let's say, a plant-based living because they don't want to have the nasty processed feedlot animals. And of course, they can be all kinds of arguing and debating about that. But certainly, I would go looking for the very best animals in every food category. So I'm getting my grass-fed liver and my pasture-raised eggs, and doing the best I can to be selective, especially for the eco-friendly aspects of that too. But from a pure nutritional standpoint, that's the big transformation for me. That now what I put into my body is highly nutritious foods rather than fluff and bulk and needing to have all this fiber running through my body. Of course, I've noticed all the benefits from those kind of changes. And so there's a pretty long diatribe. You're probably ready to talk yourself by now.
Well, and then everything is shattered. It's still mind blowing to me. All those ideas of mountains of kale and beautiful rainbow colored plates are all like, once you actually look at the nutritional guide, the nutritional equivalence of all these foods, it's like, what took us so long?
Yeah, that's funny. And when you really reflect on what you just said, it can be a little frustrating because what took us so long is rigid fixed beliefs, dogma, manipulative marketing practices. I'm talking to my elderly mother-in-law, and she has a bottle of a canola oil on the cooking stove. And I said, I'd really like to convince you to get rid of that. It's going to kill you, And she pointed to the emblem on the label, and it says heart healthy. U.S. What is it? The American Heart Association, Heart Healthy. And so you come to find out that for $600,000, you too can purchase that label to put on your consumer product. And oh my gosh, it's just, to talk to someone who's doing their best, of course, doesn't live and breathe this stuff every day, family, friends, people that have, other things to do, the manipulation and the brainwashing that we've succumbed to.
Yeah, I think we've all been hoodwinked.
Hoodwinked is right. Yeah. And it's going to take, probably another 10 years, right, until all this stuff is completely refuted. The people scoff at are becoming, commonplace and widely accepted. It's going to take a long time. But like my friend Doug McGuff says, he's a prominent author and a physician in the ancestral health scene. He goes, I don't know about you, but I don't want to wait around for traditional science and government recommendations to come through because it's going to take too long. I want to be on the forefront of this rather than wait. But don't kid yourself. In 10 or 20 years, all this stuff will be widely accepted. It's just impossible to ignore, right?
Yeah, I mean the direct experience was the most profound. When you actually tried, when one actually tries, 30 days or 10 days or 5 days or just 4 days, 3 days of just eating beef or just eating meat and just sort of witnessing what's happening in the body, it was mind blowing for me too.
Yeah, and I mean the sufferers, the stories of remarkable healing from people that have tried everything else. I don't know who you are or how you can possibly ignore that or refute someone's personal life experience. So, there's that quote, show me the science, and everyone likes to pop off as the ultimate arbiter of the truth. But we know that science can be flawed and manipulated. These tragic stories are now coming out about the Minnesota coronary experiment from the 60s that helped frame dietary policy for the U.S. government. And now it turns out it was falsified and manipulated manipulated. And so, I like to go way past just a quip like show me the science. And not that I don't respect science, but I also want to see people real life out there user experience demonstrating that they feel better and they wake up with a bounce in their step. And it's impossible to ignore that. And I know a lot of people and a lot of the machinery are still ignoring that. And a lot of that's in the mainstream medical and health community. The traditional pursuit of educational degree and registered dietitian is still going back to the dogma that's 20, 30, and 40 years old. And so, boy, that's what makes it so important about what you guys are doing is, bashing people in the face saying, look at us. How can you ignore these people that have healed and, gotten up and walked out of pain and suffering to vibrant lifestyles?
Exactly. I'm really interested, Brad, and since you really have always you've been healthy and a competitor and a dietary researcher and picked the best of what you thought was the best for your lifestyle, and you're doing really well. So I'm really interested in how altering that a little bit, changing it into more of a meat-based diet for you, or dropping plants, or how you came about that. What were the differences for you, since you were already more than surviving, thriving? So I'm really wanting to know what those nuances of differences were for you. How did they come? How did they feel?
Oh yeah, thanks. That's true. I should definitely clarify that. Like I wasn't a sufferer, right? I didn't have any nagging health problems of any kind. My blood work was great. Everything seemed to be at optimal. But of course, it was routine and customary to go through life with occasional gas, bloating, transient abdominal pain, elimination problems, a week of leaky pipes here and there, or in association with hard exercise. I'd always have the, elimination difficulties in the hours afterward. But this is just part of life. And of course, I did that crazy hard workout. So of course, I'm going to have some discomfort in my abdomen and stuff. And then I remember I was making this super duper nutritious green smoothie every day and throwing in all the fresh produce and I would freeze the kale and the celery and the other things and put in scoops of all these different powders and potions. And, I started to notice that almost every time my stomach would bloat out, and sometimes I would get some transient sharp pain here and there. And after a few hours, everything would be fine. But every day, this was part of my life. And I was talking to my friend, who's another super athletic guy who was into the smoothie scene also. And he said, well, yeah, I feel the same a lot of times. I get the bloated stomach and the pain. He goes, but it's worth it because it's so healthy. And then, we hung up the phone, whatever. And I started to reflect on that comment, that if something is so healthy, how could it create that, acute discomfort and distress in the digestive tract? And so these are just turning points that I reflect upon, where it's like, really, dude, are you freaking kidding me? You drink this thing and you walk around and my stomach would just pop out. Like it was terrible. And, over the years, right, we can all reference how much you have to unbutton the button on Thanksgiving and all this crazy stuff that happens. And that virtually disappeared when I just tried to tune up my diet and go on this experiment where I put the plants on the sideline for a while. So I wasn't highly reactive, but I was slightly reactive, like probably almost all of us are. And so that was a great awakening out of the gate. I also feel like the potential of this eating pattern for fat reduction is probably better than any other diet we've seen, because it has that high satiety factor, that high nutrient density. And of course, the lack of carbohydrate is going to immediately kick you into turbocharged fat burning and easy reduction of excess body fat. I even did this myself. I always consider myself a healthy, athletic, low body fat guy, but things got out of hand. This is now a couple of years ago. And I have a podcast on my channel. It's called the Get Over Yourself podcast. One of the episodes is called the Fatty Popcorn Boy Saga. And it was me kind of enjoying these evening popcorn binges. I'd make this great gourmet popcorn thing and share it with friends and family. And instead of a celebratory event, it became like every night I'd pop up more popcorn, and I was enjoying my dark chocolate like crazy and eating the big meals that I always eat. And all of a sudden I stepped on the scale and I was about 7 pounds over my lifelong adult life reference point of this is, this is how tall I am, and this is how much I weigh. I weigh 165, Brooke, not 172. What the hell is this? So I dialed into a pretty strict carnivore period for only about 6 or 7 weeks, and I lost all that excess body fat. So I would think I lost, 7 pounds in 7 weeks or something, which is a pretty good rate because it's truly body fat. It wasn't the water fluctuations that we get where you hear people say, I lost 10 pounds in the first week. Well, that's great. That's just inflammation and water retention. But this was a true change in body composition, and it was easy and effortless because I was eating these meals with such high satiety factor, and I wasn't putting any carbohydrates or spiking insulin to delay this effort to get rid of that excess body fat once and for all. So I feel like, there's two wonderful pillars here that the meat-based diet is indicating. One of them is to help the sufferers of the autoimmune and inflammatory conditions associated with plant antigens. And then the other one is like, hey, who doesn't want to drop excess body fat? I feel like that's the overpowering goal of anyone who's getting into the diet scene in any way, whether it's a plant-based vegan approach or carnivore or primal paleo. Keto especially has been directly associated with fat reduction. And I think there's a backlash and there's a misinterpretation and misapplication of what the keto diet's all about now that it's exploded and people are thinking it as a free license to consume a bunch of high-fat snacks all day long in the name of being healthy and losing excess body fat, and it's simply not working. And now we're seeing that backlash where people are kind of frustrated because they're hitting the macros every single day, but they're not dropping fat. So I think that's where this kind of diet can step in and awaken people to a much easier possibility to reach your goals.
Were you eating much red meat on paleo?
Yeah, certainly. There was no, that was a huge dietary emphasis, and it has been for a long time. But I think the concerted effort to go out there and get that produce, because it was so important, that's the thing that I'll forever depart from. And then also appreciating the nose to tail aspects, the carnivore recommendation. For me, it's been a big thing. And I give credit also to Dr. Kate Shanahan and her 4 Pillars of Human Nutrition. When I read that book, and a best-selling book, it's been around for a long time. And she was talking about the 4 pillars being meat on the bone, organ meats, fresh foods, which would consider, all the other fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, fresh animal products like an egg, what have you, and then finally fermented foods. And I realized that even though I was deep into this and so committed to healthy eating, that I was really getting like a D- or a grade of F on 3 of those 4 categories. I didn't eat a ton of fermented foods, nor did I eat a ton of meat on the bone, and I didn't eat any organ meats, and I was considering myself Mr. Super Healthy Diet. So now, with meat on the bone and organ meats being the centerpiece, and a lot of my caloric intake is going toward those kind of foods, it's been a complete transformation, so much more nutrient density. And I love the ancestral supplements. I'm taking my organ meats, even when I'm not super perfect on my A game with slicing up my liver every single day. I have my own product that I work together with ancestral supplements to promote called MOFO, Male Optimization Formula with Organs, and it's designed to boost male testosterone production, containing the proper animal organs, testicle, prostate, heart, liver, and bone marrow. So I think if you have trouble getting into that dietary groove, supplements are there to really help you raise your game, and then the rest of it's up to you to go and pick and choose and make some delicious meals. But I love how Dr. Sean and others promote the simplicity of it and the lack of choice, or the lack of decision fatigue from so many choices. Brian McAndrew, he's my coworker at Primal Blueprint. He's our filmmaker and audio engineer, and he touts this, that his life is just simpler and easier because he doesn't get overwhelmed in the produce department of the store trying to go pick and choose everything. He just has his go-to meals. They taste great, they're satisfying, and it does really kind of free you up to enjoy other aspects of your life rather than this stressful challenge to adhere to the dietary recommendations of getting all this food in every single day.
Yes, you can let go of all that nonsense of the 10 cups of of cruciferous vegetables. You just sort of let go of all that kind of stuff, all that cellulose that you thought you needed to take. You just
Yeah.
let it go.
And
And
you know what's another interesting aspect of this? I think there's a great term that Dr. Casey Means shared with me on a podcast. She's a vegan, but she acknowledges the value of the carnivore diet from her medical expertise. And she said, there's redundant pathways here. And this is what Dr. Saladino is talking about when he says that fasting is a similar antioxidant experience to slamming down the acai berries and the freshly squeezed juiced. And so the fact that we can achieve these same supposed vaunted benefits of the plant matter, the colorful plant life that has the antioxidant benefits, you can do the same thing by jumping in the cold chest freezer and fasting until noon. I'm a big proponent of chest freezer cold therapy. I have a video on YouTube. You can look it up, Brad Kearns chest freezer cold therapy. But that cold exposure and the hormetic benefits that you get, you can kind of replace your morning fruit bowl with something else. Same with a strength training session or a sprint workout where I'm triggering these antioxidant benefits in a different way.
I mean, really, that's I think the incredible benefits we get from exercise and from strenuous exercise is this incredible hormetic response to the body, which is what we've all sort of experienced the past, through our adult lives, the past 20 years with all the physical exercise that we take. I mean, that's all hormetic response with the body.
Right, and that's the same thing that's happening when you ingest a plant toxin, is your body mounts an antioxidant defense response. And I thought I was pretty knowledgeable about a diet and healthy eating, but I never quite understood it in the proper context. And I always associated like a handful of blueberries is a high antioxidant food. And so I'm ingesting these antioxidant agents and they're going through my body and scavenging free radicals. But I didn't realize that it was you're ingesting the plant poison and then mounting an antioxidant defense response. And so to look at it that way, and realizing that you don't need these things to be healthy. Of course, they can have health benefits, and people can argue the benefits of, I still need to include blueberries along with my steak, and that's fine. But this redundant pathways concept is important for all of us to consider, that there's many ways to get healthy.
And then with that in mind, what you just said, you're talking about people who really, their whole diet is based on plant toxins. The whole diet, for many of us, for so long, on our grain-based diets, on our vegetarian diets, on our heart-healthy diets, it's based on plant toxins.
Yeah, and not knowing what all we know is our own baseline, right? And so I'm feeling better than average today. I'm feeling worse than average yesterday, but I don't know I can't reference how much energy you have in your mind, body, and spirit when you wake up. I only know my own life experience. And so to not have a comparative point to where you really feel fantastic, or in the example I gave with digestive discomfort, gas, bloating, transient abdominal pain, and elimination difficulties, that's been since I was a kid. I mean, and eating too many s'mores at the camping trip and getting a big fat stomach. It's just part of life that happens sometimes. And here I am, decades later, slamming the delicious, nutritious green smoothie and feeling like the kid who ate too many s'mores on the camping trip. That's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, day in, day in. Yeah, you just figure it's just part of digesting food. Like, oh, well.
Right.
You just have a big steak and that's all you're going to eat for it each day, and then all of a sudden you realize, well, where's the big bloating digestion food experience? It's not even there.
Yeah, and that's well said, because we're so used, especially we're doing a show, people are listening, and we're so programmed to hear people with incredible enthusiasm saying, I feel so much better, things are amazing, but then to describe a lack of symptoms it's kind of backwards. Like maybe it's not as exciting, people, but I'm just going to tell you, like, how did your digestion and elimination change when you went on a carnivore dominant pattern? And I'll say, well, I didn't notice anything.
Yeah.
And that is the beauty right there. Is I didn't have any more things to talk about. It was just there, and it still is to this day. Like it's a completely different experience to have extremely minimal occurrences of any sort of irregularity to digestive tract or elimination.
And that brings up for me this really intriguing idea that, you know, there are many veterans on the carnivore diet that they just eat ground beef, or predominantly they just eat ground beef, or like a friend who just eats ground beef and bacon. I mean, it's really simple. They don't even get fancy with different things or with nose to tail. I mean, some people just don't, and they do fine. And they're doing fine. So there's like this there's like a broad range where you can get really creative with this diet in your own way, or you can stay really simple. I'm amused by the way that Danny called it the cow diet. That's hilarious. I hadn't heard that before, but yeah, that he just was eating stuff from a cow.
Yeah, and I think as we gain more metabolic efficiency, you can do just fine in a fasted state for a long time and just not require, I mean, this is Mark Sisson's big thing, this metabolic efficiency. I believe he made that term up. It's been bantered around now. Who knows who really made it up? But I think, Mark was thinking about this a long time ago where, both of us come from the endurance athletic scene. So we reference a past where we just slammed food down our throat all day long and into the night so that I could get up the next day and do more triathlon training for 5 or 6 hours and eating all those carbs and squeezing the gels and the energy bars and the drinks. And, I was able to perform. This comes at great expense to our health. We know that now, but to be able to have the efficiency where you simply feel fantastic, fully satisfied at every meal with perhaps not as many calories as you used to need when you were a sugar burning freak with your insulin spiking all day long and needing to snack and have another energy bar handy in your desk drawer so you didn't crater in the afternoon. And that was my life for many years. And I was making healthy choices and picking the cleanest energy bars or a snack full of trail mix, but I didn't associate the other ideal of just being really good at being productive and energetic until 2 p.m. without any calories. And then when it's time to eat, if you can get maximum nutrition density and maximum satiety, then you're on a beautiful path where your cellular function, your autophagy, your cleanup processes that help prevent cancer and all these metabolic diseases that are strongly associated with excess caloric consumption driven by excess insulin production. We're going to skate free from lifelong disease patterns that are the absolute norm around the world now.
Is that one of the differences that you felt, sort of more of a even keel with blood sugar and easier for you to fast for long periods of time when you were exploring carnivore diet?
Yeah, I would say incremental benefits, because prior to that, I was in a really healthy, low insulin producing diet anyway. So the two things that I'm going to tout as a success story are that incredible ability to drop excess body fat at the snap of your fingers. And I think that's of great interest to many, many people. It wasn't to me until I had to do it. And then it's like, wow, okay, this is the way it goes, is you fast until you get hungry, and then you eat at a meal that's so incredibly satisfying that you don't think about food for hours afterward. And then all of a sudden, 6 weeks later, you've burned body fat like you've always dreamed that you could, but have a difficult time when you're locked into sugar burning patterns, or have even a small amount of sweets and treats and sweetened beverages in the diet. They have a way of staying in there because you crave more of them. They have addictive properties. We know that about sugar, and even about grain foods like wheat. Dr. William Davis's book, Wheat Belly, talks about the addictive properties of bread, of wheat, such that they cause you to consume more calories every single day, to the tune of like 300 more calories calories per day because hitting the appetite receptors in the brain with the strange gliadin protein that's contained in the modern day wheat crop. It's no joke, and it's to have addictions like that we breezily don't think anything of, and then clean them up and get them out of your diet, that can feel fantastic.
Have you noticed a difference with recovery?
Yeah, the anti-inflammatory benefits are there, I think, and that's something that I believe is going to be a big uh, it's going to be a big trend in elite level athletics. So athletes in every sport are looking for ways to recover faster, and we're not anywhere close to there yet. We still have the leading people touting drinking vitamin water and other crap and putting sugar into their bodies, but it's now becoming a nice trend and a nice awakening that top performers at the world level. I remember Djokovic, the tennis player, went paleo, and all of a sudden he cured all these digestive problems and won a bunch of tournaments. LeBron James went keto a few years ago to cut body fat and get more lean and more quick. And so as this continues to trickle into the elite athlete space, I think recovery is where the major benefits are.
Yeah, I think so too. What are you eating now? What's your typical day of diet is for you now?
Well, I'm hanging around Brian, the Liver King Johnson, the founder of Ancestral Supplements, and you can go look on his page. It's one of the greatest single web pages you'll find on the internet, the About Us page, and about his lifestyle and his dietary practices. And he does crazy stuff like a 5-day fast on the heels of what he calls a failed hunt workout, which is an extremely challenging glycogen depleting workout. He's got this barbarian workout that he does. And on the heels of that, that's when he goes into his 5-day fast, not some crazy Thanksgiving feast heading into a 5-day fast. So I'm not quite at that gangster level yet, but I've picked up some interesting practices. And one of them is like, hey, you like eggs? I love pastured eggs. They taste great. And now realizing like he'll throw down 9 eggs in a single meal. So it's like, yeah, why not? I'll make an omelet with 9 egg yolks instead of 4 or 3, like I used to, make a sensible meal and maybe have my greens over there in the corner of the plate and 3 or 4 eggs and some slices of avocado. Now it's like Dr. Tommy Wood got me on this game too. He's like, if you're going to eat a meal, eat a real meal. I get these reports from athletes and they say, breakfast, 2 eggs, 2 slices of avocado, and 2 slices of bacon. He's like, no. A real breakfast is 6 eggs, the entire avocado, and 5 slices of bacon. So since I'm trying to answer your question, I'm going into more high volume for those centerpiece foods. And so, I'll make 9 egg, all yolks, and then throw sardines in there. And just to be kind of full disclosure, sometimes I'll do things like throw some sun-dried tomatoes on there. So that excludes me from the extremely strict carnivore club, but I'm doing that purely for taste. I'll put the avocado on there for sure. And so I do have some remnants of plant foods, especially dark chocolate. It's my favorite thing. And, I guess it would be my vice, right? And I also have a nut butter product that I make. It's called Brad's Macadamia Masterpiece. It's a blend of macadamia nut butter, walnut butter, cashew. And so I have discovered that I'm not sensitive to these kind of foods, and I allow them into my diet accordingly. And that's fine for me. But I definitely see the rationale for being strict, especially if you're a sufferer or you have nagging conditions. So I'm a little more freewheeling than maybe your next guest will report. But the centerpiece of my diet forevermore are these nutrient-dense animal foods. And I'm almost entirely away from fruit, except for fresh berries in the summertime. Absolutely, I will get that basket from the roadside stand that the person grew, and I'll slam those down, but then I'll have 0 for many, many months in the winter. So I feel like those kind of things are aligned with our ancestral experience. The fruit doesn't bother me. It's nutritious, but that's a huge difference from the person who's going to Costco in the summer and grabbing another pineapple and slicing it up and having this sugar in the diet year round. So I'm kind of trying to live in that ancestral lifestyle that's definitely, you could call it a meat-based or an animal-based diet.
What kind of meats do you like to eat? Do you prefer ruminants or fish or pork or
Yeah,
what?
I'm trying to up my liver game. So I got the grass-fed liver and I consume it in a frozen state. Dr. Paul Saladino turned me on to that one. It's much more palatable. So I slice it up, I salt the heck out of it, and I'll just be consuming that, on a daily basis if I'm lucky and I'm in my home environment. So I'm big on the eggs, the oily cold water fish. I like wild caught salmon and sardines, and I'm getting better and better at cooking steaks. My son is a master and he's super into culinary right now. He got the fancy expensive knife for his college graduation present, so he's going to town cooking up these delicious steaks, and I'm learning about the 3 minutes on each side. And so I'm getting better at that. But I've always loved ground beef, especially Wagyu beef, and I've had some great sources for this 100% 100% pure breed Wagyu cattle. And when you taste a properly grown ground beef, it is so delicious and so incredibly incomparable to the nasty, plain Jane ground beef that we've been eating our whole life, especially the super lean stuff. It just doesn't have any taste. And once you get into those higher categories, I know you talk about people doing it in a simple manner, but I also want to enjoy the heck out of my meals. So I am going for some, culinary bonus points here when I get the very, very best ground beef. And I'll just, cook that thing up in a pan and eat, the whole entire packet for a lunch meal. And I feel like this feast or famine strategy, the words of Dr. Art Devaney, one of the forefathers of the paleo movement, I think he was the first one to really use that as a frequent quote, that we operate best in a feast or famine pattern. And so when it's time to eat, you're going to find me eating a pretty huge meal, and I might even be nibbling on some dark chocolate after the meal's over, but then I'll go for long periods of time and bank a lot of hours in a fasted state. And I feel like that, for me, and a lot of research and user experience is showing that these patterns of banking a lot of fasted hours, maybe you're getting into ketone production and optimized cell repair, autophagy, and then when it's time to eat, you enjoy the heck out of your meals. You don't have any of this nonsense of tracking calories or even macros. I don't do any of that stuff. I just enjoy myself and I feel great. So that's the answer out of this mouth.
Do you cycle in and out with things like sweet potatoes? I mean, from a paleo background, have you let go of sweet potatoes?
That's a really good question, and I'm still trying to figure it out. Because I'm a 55-year-old dude who's trying to perform magnificent athletic feats still at this advanced age, just like Dr. Sean Baker. I broke the Guinness World Record in my crazy sport of speed golf a couple of years ago, and I'm ranked currently third in the world in the Masters high jump. I love high jumping for some reason. It's a very obscure event for people who are over 55 years old. They're not jumping up in the air and bending over the bar anymore, but I love it. I'm getting better and better at it, so I have these peak performance goals. And at this age and doing these tough workouts, these are some stress factors to consider. And so then if you add the other stress factor of fasting, because fasting is a stressor to the body, I feel like sometimes I can stack on too many layers of metabolic stress, hormonal stress, and it might be beneficial to me, for example, to have some periods where I consume extra carbs to restock glycogen the easy way. And so I'm still trying to figure that out. So I can definitely be found slamming some sweet potato fries if a restaurant has a good offering, but everything is really chosen with careful contemplation and of extremely high quality. So I think as we transition to more dietary sophistication and try to work through the disputes and the differences of opinion, if you're choosing the very best foods that you can find, and if that involves carbohydrate and you believe that these things work for you, just like I mentioned with my example of fruit. Hey, Brad, do you eat fruit? Yes, I do. You want to know what kind? It's from a roadside stand, or I picked it myself in the summertime when the fruit is ripe. And I won't touch those disgusting, gigantically sized blackberries that you see at the big box store in the winter, because I don't even count that in the same category. So how's that for the carb answer? I feel like there may be a role for those. And it may be individualized. It may be some genetic factors, because I know people that are these closed loop systems like Mark Sisson, who eats very few calories total. He feels fantastic. He's got his six-pack rocking and doing impressive workouts in the gym at age 68. And he can survive on very little food, very little carbohydrate, whereby sometimes I feel like if my intuition is telling me to go look for a carbohydrate a binge, I will do it. I will achieve that goal. It's not going to be, I'm not going to turn it down if it feels right at that time.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, I think that we still just, the jury is out, and maybe the jury will be out forever of what works best for everybody. I mean, it's really a journey. And I mean,
Yeah.
from being plant-based, grain-based, heart healthy, whole grain-based for a lot of my life, and then seeing a huge difference with all of a sudden dropping all of that out. I know better than to hang my hat out on one particular thing for all times and all people.
Yeah. And that said, you have had on your journey a fearlessness and a willingness to try new and extreme things. And so I want to distinguish that for any listener who's going to try to half-ass tiptoe into this direction. That's not going to be as valuable of a user experience or a track record as someone who really gives it a good effort and is disciplined and restricts the foods that you're not supposed to eat. And I have so many regular people in my life that aren't knee deep into this health game, who are trying out that keto thing for a while and it didn't really work for me. Well, who knows? Maybe there were still industrial seed oils that were going down your throat at these restaurant meals, inhibiting your ability to burn body fat, and therefore you are trending back into a carbohydrate dependency diet because you can't burn fat well, because you didn't really clean up your diet. So I think we need to be extreme and disciplined in our pursuit of what is the optimal health practices. And then you can conclude, yes, what I do is I have 2 sweet potatoes the evening after the day that I do my hard workout, and that works best for me. And I'm certain of it because I've tried it and I've tried the other thing. And so that's where I want people to get, where they can have that confidence and that deep belief in what they're doing is right. And then, interestingly, when I was on the professional triathlon circuit and associating with the very best athletes in the world, the training methods were drastically different from one person to the next. And we're all competing in the same race. But what happens is, over time, you learn what works best for you. And the highest level athletes were deeply convinced that what they were doing was right for them. And so they had that incredible certainty and confidence. So that's what I'm trying to get to with my diet, where I know what I'm doing. I have enough experience where I can talk with great confidence about what works for me, and not try to spout my game onto other people and throw down too much where they need to make decisions for themselves, especially when it comes to just making the choice to eat healthier. Only when people are ready will they come to you for the information, and is it worth your time to even talk to them? And I've wasted a lot of breath and energy and passion trying to convince people to do something that they weren't ready for. And so now it's more like leading by example, and hey, you want to listen to this show, or you want to drop off right now? Goodbye, see ya. And that's fine.
I was sure glad you're in the carnivores with us.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, as I think I just wanted to bring up to ask you, what do you think it has to a meat-based diet has specifically for people going into older age? Because I mean, for me, it's sort of like when I think of, as you approach into, as you move into older age, besides the most important currency besides cold cash, is, I like to say, is bone density and muscle mass. So for me, that's really clear. And I'm wondering if you have had any insights about that, about in particular, as we get older, the things that we require and need.
Well, we know that we become more carbohydrate intolerant and more insulin resistant as we age. Dr. Phil Maffetone, one of the great leaders in the endurance training scene, he argues that we should steadily reduce our carbohydrate intake with each passing decade, because as we can all reference, going to the ice cream store with my 16-year-old kid and they order a hot fudge sundae and dad orders a hot fudge sundae, one of those people is going to be crashed out taking a nap an hour and a half later, and the other one's going to be doing skateboard and playing video games. So it's clear that we can't tolerate these assaults onto the carbohydrate processing system as we get older. And so that's one rationale. And then the other one is, it's also known that we have decreased protein synthesis as we age, and it warrants consuming extra protein as we get into the advanced age groups. So if you look at like the categories of extreme bodybuilders and the elderly, those people have the highest protein requirements. And so that kind of tips you over in the direction of a more animal-based diet, as opposed to the other nonsense that's, getting a lifelong assault on your insulin system is not going to show up much when you're 20, but when you're 40 and then when you're 80, that's when the the disease patterns will really take hold, because you've been bombarding your system with too many carbs for too many years.
Yeah, and it's ironically, you kind of see it going a different direction with people that get older. They seem to avoid animal foods more and more. They can't take a steak, or that's too much, or I'll just have to eat something simple, or and it sounds like at the time when they really need it the most, they're avoiding it. And I see people getting infirm really, really early on, and sort of even their gait has changed.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's the exercise component as well, but getting that healthy, nutrient-dense diet and using that fuel, putting that fuel to good use by being active and mobile. I don't know about you, but I'm, kind of scared shitless of the aging process and want to battle against it as much as possible, because we can see how much pain and suffering is ahead if we don't take care of our bodies. And it seems like an easy choice. I have this morning routine, Brooke, that I started just to do something that was really regimented and committed every single day. So I started figuring out this little flexibility, mobility ritual. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do this every day as soon as I get out of bed. And that was almost 4 years ago now. And the original routine was like 12 minutes. I put it on YouTube. It says Brad Kearns Morning Ritual, and you can see my 12-minute sequence of exercises. But today, because I've built up so much momentum and I love it so much, and it's become such a benefit to my actual workouts and injury prevention, that now the routine is like minimum 37 minutes, and oftentimes it's around 45 minutes. And it's one sequence to the next, to the next, to the next. And it has all manner of core strengthening, hip mobility, injury prevention for sprinting and jumping. And I just stack one thing onto the next, and I do it every single day without even thinking about it, before I reach for my phone, before I do anything else. And I intend to do this every single day for the rest of my life. And if we can put those kind of things into place and turn them into habit, that's when we can really kind of guard against this disgraceful decline into old age and spare tire and spectator mode that we're seeing and come to believe is normal, just because we have a certain number of birthdays. And so the fact that I can do this today at 55, this is something that's so tough. I couldn't have done it when I was 35, because I didn't build up to it. I didn't do it every single day. And so I'm feeling like I can kind of transcend a lot of what we perceive as normal rate of aging just by fighting against it. And going to the right foods is a huge part of that.
That's great. So we can find that on your YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, I can find all kinds of fun stuff. The Brad Kearns chest freezer cold therapy, like we talked about for a second. I'm getting that Hormetic boost instead of eating my colorful bowl of berries, and that's also kind of the capper. So I do the morning routine of all the exercises, and then I jump in the cold tub. So that package that starts my day in the right way, and it also, there's the physical benefits that I described, but it's also putting me into a proactive mindset, where I am showing discipline and focus and resilience getting into a tub of 38-degree water is never fun. I don't really feel like it with great excitement. I'm usually telling myself a story like, maybe I should sweep the kitchen floor first. It's kind of, I'm always making an excuse. And then I'm like, no, just get in there. So the fact that I can do that hopefully carries over into all other aspects of my life, being disciplined, to work on a book project rather than flitter around in my email inbox, and have all those other discipline factors that we need to exercise, going to sleep on time rather than binging on more shows while we're stuck at home here, keeping my exercise routine in place even though the gym's closed. All those things kind of flow easier when you can put things into place like, hey, I jump into cold water every single day.
Yeah, you start off with doing something kick-ass, and then you can sort of continue day being kick-ass. That's great. Well, I wanna ask you, you ran into Danny some years back, and you asked him what he was up to or whatever, and he mentioned, "Oh, I'm doing this cow diet." So for you, if you were running into people and friends, and they're asking you what's new, what's the best going on for you, what would you share with them?
Oh, good question, Brooke. And I've thought about this recently, because I think I can be guilty of being the over exuberant, extreme promoter of the latest, greatest, exciting thing for Brad Kearns, and I can't wait to share it with you. So now I realize I have pulled the reins back a little bit. So if I'm in a social gathering or something, usually it's my wife who will introduce me to someone and say he's on this cool diet, and he writes books about diet. And then if I can detect the interest, I'll kind of tiptoe in the direction rather than being the slammer, because I really feel like people have to be open and receptive to a message. Otherwise, it's just going to be an exchange back and forth with a whole food plant-based eater telling me that the earth's getting destroyed if you take a bite of a hamburger. And that's fine because they have those beliefs, they have their scientific references, and they're going to go down that path. Much love to them, and much luck, and hopefully you'll succeed and be okay. But then when I have my opportunity, of course, I have a receptive audience. I can talk for, hey, 57 minutes, as we found out on this show. So that's kind of my insight there, is that I'm not shouting from the soapbox. I'm kind of doing my thing, and building my audience. Let's say on my podcast, it's building steadily over time since I launched the channel, and that's really great. But if you want to listen to a counterpoint of view and you think I'm full of crap, that's okay too. I'm not trying to please everybody in the world.
Yeah, I mean, you just sort of take your time, and they can find out information from you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and then I won't fool around. If someone really wants my help or my point of view, whether it's on exercise or diet, I've given you a few tidbits over this conversation. Like, we got to take this stuff seriously. This is no joke, and it's not funny. And we've all been touched deeply and tragically by a cognitive decline, which is now becoming epidemic proportions. They're calling it type 3 diabetes from a literal standpoint. It's dysfunctional glucose metabolism in the brain is characterized these Alzheimer's and dementia conditions. And I don't want any part of that for any of myself or my loved ones. And so, I can swing hard when I'm up at the plate, but that's a different story than just grabbing people on the sidewalk saying, "Hey, you shouldn't eat that crap."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see people all around me that are getting older and frail, and they eat very little meat, and they don't eat red meat. And they think that they're doing the right thing, because for the past few decades that has seemed to be, that was what was the right thing. So
Right.
I really see it I really see it, people in their 50s. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, you can get away with so much, and do whatever you want to do when you're younger. And then with each passing decade, we start to get a little more nuanced. And I notice from being an athlete, it's so easy to get injured if I don't warm up properly and do my flexibility, mobility drills and do things that require patience and discipline. Whereas before, I'd jump out of the car and throw down and go back and go about my busy day after that. So to have that more patience and a more methodical approach, I think is a gift. It's really nice because it's doing things the right way. And another one is the food you prepare. So I like going to restaurants too, but after a while I realize I can do a better job at home than these guys with my $17 burger. And so I'm eating more and more at home and picking and choosing my foods from internet resources and finding the best of the best and the best stores and the best butchers. And so that's kind of fun to get deep into this game and be really, really selective with your choices so that you can enjoy your life to the maximum.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. That's a great idea. Just to get deeper and deeper and enjoy your life to the maximum. I love that.
Right on. Thanks, Brooke.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for sharing so much about fitness too with us. Yeah.
Why not? Keep some variety in there. Yeah.
Yeah, stronger and stronger moving along. Well, thanks again. And I hope that COVID allows or whatever. I hope California allows meetings to happen again and I can meet you in person. That'd be really great.
Love to someday. Thanks. Keep doing what you're doing, Brooke.
Look forward to it. Yeah, thanks. You too. And I'm going to sign off now. Take care.